Congratulations to Randy Nuckolls on this well-deserved 4-H Lifetime Achievement Award. Randy knows from his personal experience growing up as a 4-H'er in Tunnel Hill just how valuable Georgia 4-H is to young people. Even though he has spent much of his life in our nation's capital since graduating from UGA, he has maintained strong ties with his home state and with Georgia 4-H. Through Randy's service on the 4-H Foundation Board, he has helped hundreds of thousands of Georgia youth gain valuable life and career skills, and he has strengthened Georgia 4-H through his wise counsel in federal relations and in countless other areas. Randy's financial support of Georgia 4-H has been incredibly generous as well, with gifts to help students attend college on a 4-H scholarship, just like he did, to enhance the facilities at Rock Eagle, to fund annual statewide gatherings like the Legacy Ball, and so much more. The University of Georgia is immensely grateful for Randy's dedication to Georgia 4-H and the youth of our state. He has set an inspiring example of citizenship and service for Georgians to follow for generations to come.
I was in Whitfield County. I grew up on a dairy farm, a poultry farm. Did lots of things I really enjoyed in 4-H. My project was dairy. I was in poultry judging.
I don't think he had any desire to milk cows for the rest of his life, but he did have a lot of ambition. And 4-H was one of those things that allowed him to realize his potential.
4-H took me places I had never been before. The first time that I recall really about going to Atlanta, the first time I was on an airplane was because of 4-H. I flew to Richmond, Virginia for a 4-H meeting, and then later I went to Chicago with a 4-H trip.
His experience with the 4-H program was so rich that he also became an avid supporter. His support was not just in terms of finances and things that he could influence on the political scene across the state of Georgia as well as Washington, D.C. But I think the most important thing was that he was committed to making sure that children had the same opportunities that he had as a young person.
You know, when I think of Georgia 4-H, other than my friends, my generation of friends that I was in 4-H with, I think of people like Randy Nuckolls, you know, older 4-H'ers that I knew as a kid. They made, and Randy did, particularly made such an impression on me, which is really in a lot of ways, I think, the story of Randy's life.
I think as a camp counselor or as a board member, you have the chance to mentor younger 4-H'ers. Sometimes I hear from people who say, I remember you when you were in this leadership position or the other, and I may not even remember them, but they said you had an influence on me because I watched your career.
So when you can see young people who've had a positive experience in Georgia 4-H, and then that experience inspires them to want to continue to contribute to the organization, I think you begin to recognize really the power and the value. And Randy exemplifies that in the way that he took his positive experiences and since has contributed really a lifetime of opportunities.
And oftentimes we don't realize what impact we make through the work we do. And Randy probably doesn't realize how many lives he has impacted over the years.
When I met Randy Nuckolls, I could hear him, but I couldn't see him. And a voice spoke to me and said, "Hello, how are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing fine." He said, "What are you doing next quarter?" I just said, "Well, I'm going to student teach." I was an ag education major. I intended to student teach, had scheduled to do that. And he said, "Well, you're not going to do that." And I said, Okay, do you mind telling me what I'm going to be doing? He said, "You're going to be intern for the Senior Senator of the state of Georgia, Chairman of the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, Herman Talmadge."
I first met Randy, it would have been the spring of 2019 actually, whenever I was serving on state board, but I applied for this program called the U.S. Senate Page Program, where you go and spend a semester in Washington, D.C. And so the impact that Randy Nuckolls made in my life is really unlike an impact that most people have made. He pushed me in ways that I've never been pushed before. He provided opportunities that I would not have had access to otherwise. And I am just one example. He's done this internship for over 20 years with different students coming every summer, every semester. My story is my experience and my past and Randy's mentorship in my life, but it doesn't end with me. I'm just one example.
And Randy, I'll just let me speak to you first. When you stopped me that night in 1979 on North Campus, with a blindfold around my eyes, you talked about what I was going to be doing. I doubt that him had thoughts about past the first 12 weeks of 1980. But the fact that those little things that we do wind up impacting people for a lifetime.
As we approach 75 years of the Georgia 4-H Foundation's existence, the ability to have individuals that have institutional knowledge that can bring forward decades of experience to enhance this organization and to allow us to continue with the great work that's done, that is one of the greatest assets that Randy brings to our organization.
It's not that any of us could go back and point and say he did this or he did that, but what he did do is he helped us think through so many processes, whether it was from the program standpoint, whether it was from the foundation standpoint, whether it was the political influence across the state, or even in Washington, D.C. for that matter. He was always there to support us. And while he may not have agreed with the decisions that we made, he supported us and backed us up.
I can't think of anybody more deserving to receive this award than Randy Nuckolls. I am thankful for his mentorship, for the impact that he's had on my life.
Heard a guy say long ago, he may not be in a class by himself, but in the class he's in, it doesn't take long to call roll.
That connection from 4-H'er to alumni to supporter is something we must continue to tap into, and I think Randy perfectly demonstrates why we need supporters like him.